Okay guys, so it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I got my work that I want to get done, and so I don't mind spending a bit of time just before I go to bed. Thought I'd just do a little video, have a bit of fun with you guys and talk you through this mower, what I know about it, things that I don't know that I need to check. And also, if you've followed some of my videos before, you'll see I have this little flash card. It's got 4-stroke and 2-stroke diagnostics on it, and I put it together a while ago, and it's just a really nice order that I like to work through. I tell you what, here you go. Here's 2-stroke, take a screenshot of that. And then here's 4-stroke, feel free to take a screenshot of that. That's just my preference, and what I thought I'd do today, or in fact tonight, but not everything tonight, is we'll go through point for point. Some things like, does it turn over? I already know it turns over. There's a few things I know that are wrong with it that we're going to have to address, but we'll do that as we go. The lady said it's smoking and it's burning oil. I didn't notice it. If anyone's ever smelt an engine burning engine oil, it's really distinct. It's nothing like a 2-stroke burning engine, burning oil. It smells quite nice, but I didn't notice it. We will dig into it. I might even just pop the cylinder head off and have a bit of a peek. We will see. I'm going to give it a good full overhaul, full service. We will put it up for sale. I'll let you know how much it cost and then how much I got from it. And we will go from there. So let's get you set up. Tank is a bit dirty. I don't know if you can even see in it. Let's have a look. I need to clean that out. Clean the fuel filter out. I've just come over to my other desk, so that's where the stuff is, and that's where we're working at the moment. And I'm just watching a bit of the Mother's Day Live. Ken Small Engine did this one. You guys are so funny. You're just absolutely hilarious to watch. Anyway, great live video and thoroughly enjoying it. This is on repeat. I'm just watching this back because I missed some of it yesterday. So, no, sorry, that was earlier today. So let's get you set up. It's pretty easy going. Yeah, look, that on its own could cause the surging issue, not getting enough fuel. These should just slip out. Give it a bit of a spray with some fuel. I use these little Pressol bottles. In fact, they come from the UK, so Mick, Mick's Mowers, he'd easily have access to these. They're not cheap, but they're super useful. Useful. Oh no, I just squirted it over. Okay, I just sprayed it over my tank, so that can go in the end. A bit of slosh off. I would get a bit of compressed air, but it's too late for that. Can you see the brown bits? That was all in the filter. Right, now what we'll do, put our finger over the end, spray a bit of fuel. There's only a small area that I need to get it into, where all the junk is. You'll be able to see it. Check this out. You see all the crap fall out. Look at that. In the fuel tank. Hey, look, it's not terrible. But, yeah, not ideal. Okay, just brought you back over to the other bench now. I've just put the tank back in place just so I can let you have a look inside. And it looks pretty darn good. Although that kind of mist you can see is just fuel vapors. But in terms of actual dirt / debris, there isn't any. That's all you're going to get, I think. Oh no, there we go. That's a pretty cool view, isn't it? I'm just going to use a little paintbrush. I'm just going to get, there's just, there we go, a couple of little bits. I just want to brush out super gently. Don't use anything too rough on here because you're going to end up damaging the fine mesh screen. Just get rid of that last little bit of crud. That's all good. A little bit brown, not the end of the world, but I'll probably just change that. Spark screen, non-existent, and I can see the inside of the muffler, and it doesn't look bad at all. There's certainly no big blockages or anything in there. Already looking in the intake, it looks absolutely fine. There's no nests, there's no nothing in there, there's no dirt. We know that the linkage is not fully closing and it's not engaging the kill switch, so we can adjust that later. Turn the engine on, check for spark. We know we've got spark. However, what we will do is pop it off, we'll have a look at the spark plug, we'll see what's inside there. There we go. Moment of truth. Oh, it looks bad, doesn't it? Almost looks like it's not being seated properly, or not been seated, and oil's run up the threads. They did say it's an oil burner. I didn't notice it, but we'll soon see. Oh yes, that doesn't look ideal, does it? But anyway, that's certainly fouled. It will need a good clean. In fact, it should just be replaced. That's just a cheap Chinese piece of junk, which isn't helping anything anyway. All right, well, that's good to see it. Right, let me have a look myself. It looks quite carboned up, but it doesn't look horrendous. I've seen far worse. So actually, from what I can see, I wouldn't say that there's any excessive burning of oil under there. I'm certainly not discrediting what the previous owners said, but it doesn't look like it's of concern, really. I don't think, but you guys might disagree, and feel free to let me know. But from what I can see, it's very hard to show you. It just looks like fairly standard carb under a 4-stroke. Now, to get the actual thing apart, it's has to be, the whole crankcase has to be split. I'm not doing that. It's an absolute nightmare. So no need. I can't see any scoring or any damage to the cylinder walls. When I ran it earlier, didn't notice any excessive smoke, and certainly didn't smell any 4-stroke oil burning. Yep, plug's pretty poor. We'll go out and we'll grab another one of those, get a decent plug in there for the next owner, and we will carry on. So after that stage, that's when I'd normally give it a bit of fuel down the intake and just make sure it runs. I know it runs. Carb does need to be addressed, but I do know it runs. What we will do is we'll just do a coil reading. I don't know the exact resistance that this coil should be. Let me have a look. That's a resistor plug by the looks of it, or boot. So we've got 5 kilo ohms of resistance just in that boot alone, and I would say the secondary winding should probably be around about 7.5 to 10. So we're looking around about what, 13 to 15 kilo ohms, I'd suggest. It's about right. We will we'll double check and we'll see what happens. If it's like slightly less or slightly more, that's absolutely fine. But if it's way out of that, then yes, we might have some issues. Can you see? You got your eyes open? So we'll do secondary first. So secondary is essentially, in fact, let's check that we've got fairly close to 0 ohms of resistance. You got 1. Are you going to drop again for me? That's fine. So we'll go to ground, find a good ground. So there we are, we're at 12 kilo ohms of resistance. I would say that's certainly within spec, pretty much bang on to where I said it would be. Nice stable reading. So we'll call that for now, we'll call that a good reading. As I said, the plug boot itself is a resistor boot. So yeah, that looks good to me. We will try primary. Primary, you can run into issues because you have to run through semiconductors. Make sure we've got a nice clean connection. You're going from here to ground. So we'll find another clean ground. And typical primary readings, you can already see it there. 1.5 is absolutely standard. So that's again a fantastic reading that we've got at 1.2. So we know we're okay there as well. We haven't got any issues so far with the coil. The next thing we need to do is valve clearance. Honestly, guys, I think it's 150 now. I'm going to head to bed. Let's do the valve clearance in the morning. So for you, it's going to be a few seconds. For me, it's going to be about 8 hours. All right, morning, guys. It's the next day. So we'll just check the valve clearance. We'll see what that is. there'll be a gasket under here. Let me get a rubber face mallet. There we go. Gasket's in good condition. Now we need to find top dead center on the compression stroke. There's my torch. Back in a sec. Just zoomed you in there. Right, top dead center on the compression stroke. This one. Oh no, I've just realised. I have to take my piece of wood out that I'm using to prop this up. So I'll put it back in a second. That is there. That's exhaust. That's intake. That is our compression stroke there. Put that back under there. Okay, let's have a little feel of them. It feels a bit tight. Yeah, they both feel a bit tight. Let's gap them. Give me a sec. At the moment, we can't get. Where are we? We can't get that 1.5 in. So where are we? 14. Loosen that up. Loosen that back. Pop our 0.15 in, and we can just leave it there. Gently snug it up so we've got a bit of resistance. I'll leave that there. And it might take a couple of times to get this right. That feels good. Don't go crazy tight with these. That's good enough. Let's see, it might have just gone a bit too tight. No, that's lovely. We've got a bit of drag on there. So the same with the bottom one. I think the bottom one, what have I got? 0.18 on the bottom. So no, that's not fitting in either. Same thing again. In this case, you just loosen off. One thing I found really useful, I bought this, it's just a kin chrome breaker bar, but it's for 1/4 inch, and it just saves the ratcheting mechanism on tight nuts and bolts, basically. So I found that to be really useful in certain circumstances. Anyway, I digress. If we go in with that one and out with that one. Oh gosh, you can just, oh, it came off. Super tight, but we got it. Bring that out. So that's there. That. Slight bit of drag, you can see I'm moving the valve. A little bit of drag. That's lovely. There's a bit of junk on the inside of this here. Is that a good shot? I'm just going to get a tissue, we'll wipe that out. Paper towel. So there we go. I tell you what, let's try this. I'm back in a sec. This actually might not be any better. I think the angle might be better, but because I've had to zoom you right out, it would look like this otherwise. You're not going to see much, so that would be a better image. But let's work. Let's see how this goes. You guys can let me know. All right, let's tighten that valve cover up. What was it, a 10? So we'll take our impact. Lots of people say that they don't use an impact because they don't want to cross-thread things. A lot of it, when you've used an impact for a while, it just becomes an extension of your wrist. So leak down test. Well, the first thing, what is a leak down test? A leak down test is a 4-stroke test to test the validity of the top end. So piston rings, the 2 valves, and if it's passing any gaskets, so if you've maybe got a cylinder head gasket that has a bit of a leak, it will show you that as well. And if it's going past the piston rings, we can test that the breather is working as well and it's not blocked. We haven't got any issues there. So to do a leak down test, the first thing we want to bring the piston to top dead center on the compression stroke that closes both of the intake and the exhaust valves. And just bear in mind that you want to set it if you can't clamp it bang on in one place, like you can't really with a mower blade, I would suggest that you bring it either just before or just after top dead center and then stop it there. So for example, I've gone just after top dead center and I've got a piece of wood holding the mower deck up and the blade is pressing against it. So as I add air through the cylinder, it's going to press against the piston crown and it's just going to press against that piece of wood essentially. Now, if I was at top dead center, it could go either way and it could actually swing the blade back. And if you're putting a lot of pressure in there, it can be extremely violent. We don't want that. We don't want the blade spinning and losing fingers, this, that, and the other. So there's two things to negate it. Firstly, go past top dead center or before top dead center and lock it in the position that it will travel if the piston does move. And secondly, we're only applying a small amount of air. Sometimes people apply 100 psi because it's a round number to work with. I don't do that. It's too much, it's not necessary, and it can be quite violent if something goes wrong. Then I've taken the air filter off, that's all fine, because we're going to test that. And lastly, we need, so leak down test, as I said, it's a 4 strokes, not a 2 stroke test. Sometimes people call a pressure and a vacuum test a leak down test. It's not the right terminology. I made this for myself. I actually bought one for $100. It was junk. Bought one for $300 after that, actually $350 plus postage. It was junk. I decided to make my own, and this one works really well. If you want to make one, just have a look on YouTube. There's loads of videos on there. And then I just put down this piece of paper and I just covered it in some tape. This is how to do a leak down test, essentially. In fact, screenshot that and you can use it. So the first thing we're going to do is, in fact, I've just realised we've got this rocked back, which means that oil is probably going to spill out. Actually, it wasn't very full, so it might not. Let's have a look. Just, no, we're okay. A little bit of spillage, but that's fine. We're going to leave that cap on for now, because we're going to test the breather if anything passes the piston ring. So, leak down tester. Pull the knob out, turn it anti-clockwise till it stops. We're going to add some air in. Now we're going to bring this knob out. We're going to turn it clockwise this time. We're going to put air into the first gauge and we're going to set it to around about 30 psi. I like 30 because it's low. It's not going to cause any violent kind of blade swingings in this case. It's easy to control and you can still get a really good reading. So we're going to go to 30 like so. We're pretty much bang on. Hopefully it looks like 30 to you too. About 30 for you guys. Yeah. And then we're going to take the adapter that goes into the spark plug. And we're going to plug it in. And we're just going to see, we want this dial, which is at 30 as well, to drop down to 0. And that one will drop a few psi because, of course, well, we're not holding at 30, are we? So, in we go. That drops down to 0. Take it off. And we want to double check that this returns to 30. Now, it's gone to 32. So, let's back it down. And we'll go back to 30. So down we go, then back up. And do the same thing again. We've gone slightly more, so let's try one more time. Back down we go. Add the air back in. Back in we go here. And there we go. We're bang on 30 again. That's where we want to be. Okay, let me just do it one more time for a second. We're bang on. Okay, then what we need to do, hopefully the air compressor doesn't go off, but it might. That's just zeroing the 2 gauges. We then put the adapter tube in here. We then plug it in, and all this is going to do is it's going to pass air through the engine, right? As soon as it levels out, which will take a second or so, we're going to read the reading on the second gauge. I've got myself a pen ready, and we're going to jot down the number that it's reading, okay? Plug it in. So we're reading, where are we? 28, I'd say 28. Let's write 28 down. 28. And now we need to find where that 2 psi is leaking from. So we had 30 going in, we're at 28. And my favorite method, there's 2 options, I suppose. I'll sometimes use this, and this is basically just a stethoscope. You plug the end in. It's got an air attachment. Plug those in your ears, and you can have a listen, but that's not going to help you guys see it. So this is completely drained of petrol. Don't do this if it's not. Grab yourself some incense, or a cigarette, or a lit piece of paper. I've just got incense to hand. And we're going to use this to find out where that leak's coming from. So we'll let that light up. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So we'll start with the exhaust. If it's coming out of the exhaust, it means the exhaust valve is leaking possibly by 2 psi. We're right by the exhaust and we're not getting anything at all. You can see it's just traveling straight up. Let's now check round where the spark plug adapter goes in. And again, there's no movement of that air, so we know that that's good too. Can you see if I zoom you in? Yeah, you can. Right, let's go back here. You can see it's not moving the smoke. Now the intake. There is a little bit of air coming out of the intake actually. So that could be coming through the intake valve, or in this case, you can see there's a tube here. It's the breather tube, which is actually here. So the best way to do this, now bear in mind you may spill some oil doing this, is to undo the oil filler cap and see if air is coming out of that. Then we know that the issue is not the valve, and instead it's just passing the piston rings, it's going through the breather and then out the intake area. Let me just tap this ash off. Where's my tin gone? Up there. I'm going to show you what it looks like. Ready? You can come with me. If I stick this, can you see how if I put it in there it's blowing out? So that could be either intake valve, or it could also be, sorry guys, I just put you back in the tripod and oh, here we go. I put you back in the tripod and I accidentally cut you out. I've just shown you the intake is leaking, or at least there's air coming out of this area. You can't even feel it, it's so gentle. It is only 2 psi that's coming out, not surprising. So let's go and take off the oil filler cap, and if it's coming out of there, it means that the intake is fine and that it's actually passing the rings. In fact, let me wait for that compressor. Okay. It could be blowing oil out here, so just, yeah, it's, have a look at this. You can hear it now. Tap the ash off. Watch this. It should come. There you go. So we are losing 2 psi through or past the piston rings, and actually we know the intake is not the issue. The intake valve is actually just coming out of the crankcase breather tube. So that's really good to know. The last thing we can do is double check around places like gaskets. If I had a cylinder head gasket, I could test it and do the same thing. But we know we've only got 2 psi leak, so let's carry on and do the equation to find out what that is in percentage of leak down, and we'll go from there. Right, let me get you set back up. Hold tight. All right, I did this off camera because I needed the calculator on my phone's camera. What? I needed the calculator on my phone and I'm filming it with the camera. All right, so this is the equation. If you took a screenshot earlier, you'll see, but I'm gonna read you through it. So you start off with the original value we set on the leak down tester, which we went to 30 psi. We then minus that from the other dial, which is basically reading how much air is leaking, and we got 28. That means that we've got 2% or 2 psi difference between the two values of leak down. That doesn't mean anything just yet. We then take that number and divide it by the original number to give us 0.07. And then we times that number by 100 to give us our percentage. Now, if you were to just put 100 psi in, it's so easy. But because we went with 30 psi, we had to do this bit of an equation because we didn't want to put so much air into the cylinder. You can cause yourself some issues. We have 7% leak down test, and that 7% is going past the rings. The valves are both sealing good. We know that they're set correctly as well. So that's really good to know. Now, what does that 7% actually mean? Here is the piece of paper that I had you guys screenshot earlier. There's the equation, and then what we have here is what is considered good, bad, blah, blah, blah. We are between 6 and 14. This is good, and it's standard leak range for most engines. Every engine's going to leak. Okay, but in this case, we're really good. There's a very small amount of leak there. We are what I'd consider good, between 6 and 14%. In fact, we're very much on the edge of excellent in this case. So that's it. We've done the leak down test. We know so much more about the engine, its condition now. And so we can write that information down too, and we can also share that with the next person that's going to buy it. When you're putting it up on Facebook Marketplace, you can say, it's done a leak down test, it's excellent, or in this case, it's really good, it's only leaking 7%, blah, blah, blah. It might not mean much to them, but what it does just go to show is you've taken the time and effort to do the job correctly. It's all about building up trust and also just sharing some information with the customer to show that that you care and that you've done a good job. It takes 5 minutes to do a leak down test, and that gives you so much information about how this engine is performing. Right, we're going to carry on. We're going to put a few things back together, and we'll go from there. So, spark plug, I didn't have a spare one. I thought I might, but I didn't, so I just cleaned this one up on the wire wheel. I'll use it for now for the testing, and I'll stick a new one in before it goes. Just giving it a quick gap. You can buy these little spark plug gap tools, and you can open it, and you can close it. 30 thou, it's about where we are. So it's a tiny bit wide, but it's fine. I'm not going to complain about that. So the next thing we're going to do, actually, is test the strength of the spark. Put it through the spark plug like so. Gonna go there to here, and then here to ground. Now, is my blade gonna hit? I think it will. Oh no, it's not. So I'm gonna set this to 6 mil, sorry, 6 mil gap. I'm gonna spin this with a impact. I think that might be a bit stiff for an impact, but we're going to try it anyway. And I just want to make sure that we're getting a good blue spark, nice bright blue spark. Let me go get the impact. Getting nice bright spark. And we're good. Spark test. All right, let's get the carb off now. These are just 2 10s. Pop those in there. We have the breather tube, which needs to come off. We're going to double check that. Let's get a flathead screwdriver. Very good. And we have the tube here for the primer. Certainly worth getting yourself a pair of soft jaw pliers. There we go. Stops you from marring anything up. Okay, into there. So we can hopefully pull this out now. Might need a gentle tap. There we go. Bit more. Good. The gasket's just slightly torn there. I'm going to show you a trick to make sure that that's not going to cause us any issues. We're going to just bring that out a little way. I think we're going to have to take you off first. The little tension spring. I think it was Mick who said that. Thank you, Mick. My head in the way. Told me about this spring, that it's not a governor spring as such, which I didn't think it was. It just seemed a bit strange. Pull that off. And then that, a bit more. Now we can just turn that. She should, he says, slip out like so. I'm going to be crouching down here. Hopefully I'm not in your shot. Let's start with this old fuel line. You know what? I got myself all prepared. I was like, before I start the video, I'm going to get myself prepared and I get the tools I think I need. Didn't even get myself my pliers. All right. Now we'll put the plastic like that. There we go. And there's no damage to that brass. Okay, let's take, we've got the drain plug and the bowl plug. Check these earlier, they're 10s. Washer looks good. And that's off too. In there. You can't get those threads wrong with a different size. We're really lucky here in Australia. We don't have, I'll tell you what, let's see if it actually should hold. Yeah, slightly blocked by the sounds of it, but nothing terrible. We don't have ethanol here, so we're very lucky in that respect. How clean is this bowl? Looks a bit gunky to me. Again, it's really not bad. There's no water in it, there's no corrosion in there. I would suggest it's probably that jet in here. Little spring. Have a look at the needle. There's always a bit of junk on there. The needle, oh sorry, I don't know if you can see, probably not. The needle is pretty good, it's got a slight mark. Let me just bring it to my eyes so I can actually see. It's actually only discoloration rather than an actual ridge, so we're going to go with it. There we go. Sometimes you could do it after you've put it in the hot water, that sometimes helps, but here she comes. Out you come. Emulsion tube comes out, main jet comes out. Can't quite tell if they're blocked just yet. Oh, that doesn't look very clear. It's not blocked, but it's not fully clear. Can you? Come on, focus. You can see through it, but that's too small of a hole. So we're going to clean that out and clear that up. And then the emulsion tube, can't quite, it's clear as in the main kind of hole. Where are you? Like that. The actual drillings themselves, I can't quite tell. Let me blow them out and then see just gently with my breath. It's all clear there. That one's clear. Those are all clear. So that looks fine. That one's probably just a little bit more closed than I would like. Sorry, just a little bit more closed than I'd like. My hands look horrible like that, don't they? All right, let's carry on. You can take yourself a fine piece of wire here. I'll just pull them out with a plier from this brush. Just take one. What you can do is use this wire to go through the jet. See if we can get any gunk out with it first. Oh, but let's put it through. This way you're not going to damage anything. A very fine piece of brass wire. That's better. That's better. Have a look now. Can you see how much bigger that is? That's clear. Focus. So that's fine. That's fine. That is fine. And emulsion tube area. So blockage there or there. Hopefully you can see and I'm still in focus. The seat is clean. Drillings are clean. Gasket looks good. I will take that off before we put it in the hot water. Yeah, can't really do much about that. I could just leave it. At the end of the day, it doesn't damage rubber. I'm just going to leave it. What I want to do is screw this idle set screw in and find out how many turns in until it stops. It's 3. So 3 from seated out. So we'll take this one out. pop this out. Where's my little soft jaw pliers? You could get a screwdriver under it, I think. Let's try that instead. Just gently, don't force anything. Back, forth, back, forth. Comes off, nothing in there. That's all good. We're just going to spray each and every one of these with a little bit of cleaner, but that is often the issue. There's my hole. So what we're going to do is put some light through here and see if we can see it at the end. Now I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but we just have to bear with me. It's tiny, so bear with me. And you know what? It doesn't look bad, but it's not perfect. I think there's just a tiny bit of stale fuel in there. Not enough to completely block it off, but enough to cause me a bit of issues. So same thing again. There's my piece of wire. I don't know. Pliers. Pull it out. Shall I show you? Oh, you're not going to even be able to see, honestly. But anyway, there's this little jet in here. That's much clearer. Okay, so this is what I'm using. Chemtech. Is it Chemtech? Yeah, Chemtech. CT14. It's meant to be pretty strong stuff. I've got it in a glass jar, got it in the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's put it on. It is a degas function. Oh yeah, wait. On the back too. That helps. So we're at 34 degrees at the moment. Oh, I don't know if you can even see that. So ultrasonic, I think I pressed this 3 times to go into the degas. Wait a few seconds. Go. Let's get the mower up here. We're going to get the blade off. I'm going to use the impact wrench. I'm going to talk about that too. Right, the difference between an impact wrench and an impact driver. An impact driver takes 1/4 inch hex bits. Let me show you. This is kind of important. Oh, sorry. So, impact driver, impact wrench, designed for small, light hardware. Generally, small OPE it's really good for. Impact wrench is for, and this is for generally 1/4 inch adapters. 1/4 inch hex, is that what they call them? And this one is for sockets. So this one hits more often and lighter. This one hits less often and heavier. This is very good for heavier applications like removing blades. Let's get it off now. I think it's probably a 17. There we go. Just hold the blade, a couple of zaps. It will come out. The carrier can sometimes come off. Don't worry too much about that if it does. That back in so the carrier doesn't fall off. It was just about coming. There we go. That's fine. We got our blade. Let's have a quick look at the condition. So it looks like it's never been sharpened before. There's no major dents or dings. There's a bit of unevenness, but we're just going to bring it back to a good edge. That's all we want. This is the Milwaukee M12 Die Grinder. I absolutely love it. We're going to go full speed. Put that up there. We need the adapter and the tools. Loosen that off like so. That goes in, that tightens up. I've just got them all 3 things on here. I've got F and B, front and back. That's firm. And then what we'll do, put the attachment in the end, and again, this needs to be firm too. So that's going to go in there, use it against my body. And we're just going to snug that down firm. And okay, to rock and roll. That can go there, that can go there. Face mask, actually this is a respirator. And all I'm going to do is follow the bevel that's already put in place. I'm only going to work on a small section of it. I'm not going to do the whole thing. I might maximum go to kind of about there and we should be good to go. So this is how we sharpen a blade and then we'll balance it after that. Yeah, pretty good to me. That looks good to me. Right, let's show you that one, then we'll carry on to the second side. There we go. We've got a little bit of that. I don't know what that end bit is actually. Can anyone tell me what that is? There it is. It's a slightly bit, that tiny bit's overheated because it's such a thin bit of metal, but anyway. That is good. It's a nice even bevel. There's the burr behind it. And we're now going to move on to the second side. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's got it on both sides, like a little tiny bit hanging out. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. Right, let's carry on. I'm not going to film it. Let's get on with it. Okay, trying to get you the best angles possible, but it's not always that easy. So we have one side done. That's good. You can see the burrs there. And the other side is done too. Absolutely fine. There's no damage, no dents. Now what I need to do is to place onto this blade balancer as perfectly evenly as I can. Now, excuse my head. Gently let it go. And that is a balanced blade. Look at that. Perfect. And carb can go in. Float bar goes in. That goes in. Can you see? Let's set it for 15 minutes. All right, let's go. Right, let's reattach this blade. So, a little bit of Loctite. I just like to use it for peace of mind. Put that up there. Put this on. Flip it right on its side. Undo the boot. Always good practice. Yeah, we might spill a bit of oil. It's not going to be the end of the world. Right. Pop it off. Again, this is the job really of an impact wrench. The impact driver here, you could probably do it. Make sure that's nice and clean, free of any dirt and debris, which it is. And blade goes back in place. Now we want to go that way. Don't fall and cut me. Just a little drop's all it needs. Even that's probably too much, but that's what came out. That goes in. Zap it up. Carefully your fingers. Slowly. We can actually go onto this setting, which is good. Automatically stops. Now I'm going to give it just a couple of zaps with the driver, and then we're going to torque it up to spec. That's all right. Now we're going to get something to block that. Back in a sec. We're going to 30 foot-pounds. There we go. And you don't need to go click, 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 click. It's just a waste of time. Wearing out your torque wrench. Right, that's on. Loctite's in place. Let's put this back. It's done. I wasn't going to do it on camera, but I thought, you know what? Let's do the reveal. Float's floating, which is a great sign. And we'll just take this out. It's going to be hot. Doesn't look too bad, but again, as I said, I cleaned it earlier, so cleaned it before it went in. Only slightly, but just means the degreasing action will be more effective, that's all. So we'll take these bits out, we'll give them a wash, and we'll have a quick look, see what they look like. I've blown it all off, got all the moisture out, really nice and clean. Float bowl came out spotlessly clean. And the float was, as you saw, continued to float. See how this lot looks. Bit of dirt in there, just a small amount. We'll blow each one of these off. They're all clean. Nice and clean. Right, reassembly time. So we have, there's our, yeah. This one goes in. These are just press fit. There's normally a seal on there actually. Oh yeah, there's a seal. Okay. And you can use a little bit of a press fluid, that might help. Yeah, I'm going to use a bit of press fluid, and I thought I just saw a bit of moisture drop out there. Give me a sec. sorry. That was going on for quite a while. Press fluid is literally just like an oil that evaporates. It's really helpful to put rubber bits on. Main jet. Let's start it off with this. An emulsion tube already in. These don't need to be done tight. Better that you do them a bit loose and they fall out than over tighten them and strip them. So that's all it needs. Just gentle. Right, that's all good, that's all good. This was 3 turns out, I believe. You guys will probably remember better than I do. 3 turns out from seated. 1, 2, 3. And that's all good. That's holding that down. That's in place, that's in place, that's down. Float. There's my needle. And where's my little spring gone? Spring goes over. Push up, connect, goes like that, pin goes in, like so, seal goes in, that's good. Now which way did this go? So that's going to go, that's intake, it'll be easiest to access it that way I suppose. That's good there. Goes on. Goes in. Drop a new fuel line in and we're good to go. So again, just snug. Don't need to go too crazy. It's got a seal there for a reason. There, and this one's even less necessary to go tight. And that is speak English. That is the carb. There we go, we got there eventually, done. All I need to do now is just put a little bit of gasket maker onto, not gasket maker, it's Permatex Aviation Former gasket number 3. Give it a bit of a mix. And this just, if you've damaged any gaskets, this just helps seal it. Or even if you haven't damaged gasket and the gasket's new, it just helps seal it. So this is that side's not very important, to be completely honest with you. In fact, that's the intake side. What am I talking about? So that is important. It's after the carb. So put a little bit of goodness on here. Just make sure you get an airtight seal. And we could even put, nah, I'm not going to worry about this side. This is the intake side, or the air filter side, and I don't want to block any of these holes up. And also, it really doesn't need it. This side's not damaged, it's all okay. So I'm going to go stick this back on the mower, and we'll go from there. All right, what have I done? I've just put the carb back on, I put the linkages back in place. The cover's on. Air filter. Cover can go back on with the air filter, which I've just blown out and cleaned, so that's really good. Oh, you're in 60 frames a second, hold tight. There we go, hopefully it's not flashing anymore. I do apologise about that, I need to get better. That goes on there. So air filter's good, that's good. We've got the tank to put back on next. There we go. I'm putting 50-to-1 two-stroke mix in there. I don't work enough on 4-stroke engines to have just straight fuel, so it'll be fine. It's only going to add a little bit of lubrication on the top end. The other thing to note is I'm only doing it for half a tank. I'm not doing it for 3-4 years. So there we go. Right, let's check to see if we've got any leakage. No. Now we'll go and attach the handles outside and we'll give it a quick start up. Check of the cable. So that's full throttle. I want to make sure it hits that switch. Oh, it doesn't. It does it with loads. Right, we're going to bring it back some. That's going to be too much. I only wanted to just touch that switch. There, right about there. Full throttle. We'll test that. We'll just double check it's not going too fast with the tachometer, and then click. I'm going to give it a tiny bit more. Hasn't quite enough oomph against that kill switch. I want it to be quite positive, just for safety reasons, really. Perfect, that's where we want to be. Okay, first start, just pulled up. Full throttle, give it a couple of good bumps. You won't believe it, I literally just started it and my phone died. So annoying, but I'll tell you what I did and then I'll just show you on the tech. So I started it, all good, idles beautifully, wide open throttle, really nice. I adjusted it, it was about 2,500, which was a bit low. I went to 3,000, it's probably about 3.1 now, but that's absolutely fine, certainly safe. What I did find is when I go from nothing to full wide open throttle, for about 3 or 4 seconds, it does surge slightly, and then it smooths out. So I don't know if you guys could tell me if that's normal. I got the idle set really nice. Now listen to what I mean about that surge. It didn't really do it that time. I'll do one more. Not actually doing it that badly, and it only does it for a couple of seconds and then stops. So it's probably just that it's sucking a big load of air and it kind of just has to settle down for a second. But apart from that, it's all good. I'm so sorry that I couldn't show you a couple of clips of it cutting. All right, guys, I'm kind of positioned under the light a bit strangely. Just wanted to say thanks for hanging out with me, and hope you enjoyed it. I'm done. Catch you soon.